Ready?
Yep.
Set, go.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 46.
Chat room. People, as you're arriving, your job is to come up with a show title. Tired of coming up with show titles before the show. So, as we discuss things, talk about things, throw some ideas out in the chat room, and we'll try to remember at the end to say, hey, what is a good show title? Welcome, everybody. Where do we get started?
Where are we going to do our little roll of the...
I have to pay a lot of money to be able to do that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't want to do that right now.
That intro that we used to do always?
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's get started. First, we are going to talk about our sponsors. So why don't you tell us a little bit about our sponsors this week?
The first sponsor is us, again, reminding you all that we will be in Seattle on April 4th, holding a workshop, hands-on, 1 day, full day, packed, designed to give the beginner photographer a huge step forward in their journey of photography. What are some of the things we're going to cover?
Well, we are going to cover manual camera settings, semi-automatic camera settings, the exposure triangle. We're also going to go spend some time talking about how to find a good light when you approach a scene. We will be working in a really cool studio that we are renting for the day. It's a natural light studio, so there's white walls and it's really pretty, so you'll be able to get some really nice images. We're going to finish up the day with a photo walk. Yeah, a photo walk around Seattle, and then maybe grab some dinner with whoever wants to come. So,
now, you know, I remember what it's like to be a beginner, and sometimes I still feel like a beginner when I'm thinking about going on different workshops, and there's always this kind of fear or trepidation that, oh my God, I'm going to look like a dummy, or this is just going to be way above my head. And the answer is no, that's not true. Please come. We have designed this to be friendly from the beginning. And that leads into, I don't want to go into this discussion a whole lot. Sometimes I wish I was a little bit better at marketing myself than I am. But one of the things that I've been discussing with somebody that I've started to collaborate with is the fact that I have an educational technology background. I actually have a master's in educational technology. And let's emphasize the education part. I actually worked in education for many years as well. And that has allowed me to really come from an area where you set up these goals that you want people to learn, and then you lay out how to get there, the path to get there. There are a bajillion wonderful photographers out there, some of them doing a lot of teaching. But just because they're a great photographer doesn't necessarily mean they can translate everything that they're doing into something that is digestible and, you know, easy to follow along, or even maybe fun, throw in that word as well. So I really want to emphasize that. And you're going to see that in this workshop. You're going to see that in the Lightroom video that went out this week.
Yep.
So let's take a moment and talk about that, because I think this is really exciting. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time and had in planning. And finally, you know, you get that first one out and it's a great relief. This week, a 1-hour video on the beginnings of Lightroom, how to set it up, how to understand what a catalog is. Because when you're first beginning, that catalog thing is kind of confusing. Why you may or may not want additional catalogs, usually not. And just kind of building some good habits in organization and how to set it all up for our future videos. It's 1 hour long, again, carefully produced to give you what you need to know. It's just $250. And Patreon folks who are at that $249. I rounded it up.
To be technical.
Patreon folks who are at the $3 a month and up level, you get it free. And I appreciate your support in many ways, and that is one of the perks that you all are getting. And also, talking about Patreon, we'll get going into stuff here in just a second, but
Yep.
we want to make sure we cover all of this.
Just a second.
That the support group went up this week. That's something many of you have been asking for. A place for the supporters to gather together, chat among themselves and to me, and there is now a Facebook group for that. And a notice went out today. So if you're a Patreon supporter at the 5 and up level, you get that. Lightroom folks, 3 and up, you're going to get a Lightroom support group very soon.
Yep, and if you want to download the Lightroom video, just head on over to photorec.tv/shop, and that's really it.
I see Tanner's in the chat room. Tanner, can I show your website in a minute? Because I want to pull that into something else we're going to discuss about.
Spoiler alert, he's going to show it anyway.
Well, he could say, no, please don't. But Tanner's one of the Patreon supporters, which I really appreciate. And the folks at the 10 and up get to have a little gallery link on my page. And folks have started to submit that because I put out the call today. And his looks very nice. And I just want to use it as an example of something in a minute. We mentioned in the chat, no audio problems yet. Let's cross our fingers. If you saw the post on Facebook, we have ditched the Zoom. Well, here, it's funny because I posted, I think we beat these, and somebody posted, I have the same problem. And it's like, really? You have this funny noise during a live show sporadically? That's all they said, I have the same problem. We've now moved to a little mixer. The problem, I believe, in talking to the Rogue Amoeba folks, they made the little piece of software that I used to monoize our incoming signal. Because if you remember that very first live show we had, we were left and right, you could hear us, we were actually reversed, and then we switched it. But I wanted it to be stereo or mixed, and the Zoom can't do that. So I used a little piece of software called Audio Hijack, and it seemed to work great. But what they think is that there is this synchronicity issue that happens every once in a while with the different bit rates. It's getting too much, it's too much. So this little on sale at B&H for $79, US 322 from Tascam, seems to be doing the job very well. Tested it for a while yesterday, tested it for a while today. We sound good? Thumbs up. I have to say, I'm not giving this Tascam a full thumbs up because the place that the XLR mics plug into feels flimsy.
Okay.
So it is positioned.
I don't know if do people really care about like the minute details of how this apparatus works?
Well, I would say that, I mentioned it, but I want to say that people, if you are looking to do a live show on a serious budget, it seems to be an option. But again, I'm not happy with the plug-in spot. It feels pretty flimsy.
Okay.
All right.
So last sponsor for today is Squarespace. If you go to squarespace.com/Toby, you get 10% off 2 weeks, a 2-week trial for Squarespace.
Right.
And Squarespace is pretty awesome.
Why is it pretty awesome?
Well, you were going to show us some examples of websites, particularly one website.
This is, and I imagine Tanner could speak to this in the chat room as well. There are a couple really nice things about Squarespace. One is the simplicity of setup. It is just fantastic. I had a video that went out earlier this year that showed you, or actually last year technically, that showed you, setting up a website from scratch in about 15 minutes.
Really nice drag and drop features.
Right.
And easy customization tools.
Right. Yep. So yeah, I came across this website today that clearly is not Squarespace, and I just want to take a moment and show you all here. It is a photographer's website.
Tripod.com.
I don't know how old it is. It could be quite old, but we do have this video ad
those
running
pictures,
over here.
They don't look like they're from like the 80s or anything.
You're being a little sarcastic. People can't see your sarcasm face. And it's got prices on here. It uses only professional medium format equipment, free memory insurance and experiences. Well, I'm not making fun of the person, but this website is something else. And
not built with Squarespace.
Not built with Squarespace. Let's move over to a website that was built with Squarespace, and this is Tanner's. And it's just so nice. Tanner, I don't think you had to do any code. I've done this before where you've set up this full view. It just looks good. It's set up to be with these templates for photographers that work really, really well without a lot of, work on your part. Sorry to repeat myself there. So it's great, and I'll be talking more about Squarespace soon. But take advantage of that. 2-week free trial. You don't even have to put in a credit card. All you need is an email. Hey, you know what? If you even just need a website for 2 weeks, maybe you're getting married in 2 weeks, throw up a wedding website for yourself, and there you go.
Yep. And last thing before we move on, if you want to interact with us on other days that are not today, at 5:30 while we're doing the podcast, the links to our Instagram and Twitter are down below in the show notes. So go ahead and check those out, and feel free to follow us if you'd like. Cool. So let's move on to the first thing. Okay, we have a question of the week for you guys this week. Will you upgrade to Lightroom 6? So Lightroom 6 has been announced. And it
Well,
will
not
come out-
officially.
Not officially, unofficially announced to be released in March.
Yep.
So if Lightroom 6 does end up being released in March, will you upgrade as a standalone version or as part of the Creative Cloud? We have a link to a poll down in the comments. Feel free to check it
That's
out
right.
and give us your vote.
Here are the results so far. Just over 100 or so votes. Really clear Lightroom standalone as the winner. But the Photoshop CC bundle is not too far behind, and actually I think a couple people were a little confused because I maybe should have said, I added this CC recently. It originally just said Lightroom Photoshop bundle, thinking everybody could understand my brain that I meant the CC, Creative Cloud bundle. So we can add a couple more votes in there, I think, as well. But I was surprised that, well, actually, no, I'm not surprised, sorry. It's still for...
The standalone.
For the standalone being a clear winner, it makes sense. As Scott mentioned, the price for somebody who isn't going to think that they're going to upgrade every year and isn't making money off photography, the price of the standalone is better, usually. Especially when you can find it on one of those deals, which you can do from time to time.
Yep.
So,
but also, I don't know, it seems like once you take into account the fact that you're going to budget, and by the way, just a disclaimer, this is not part of our sponsor section. We don't get paid by Adobe.
Well, actually, if people sign up through my link, I get a cut.
All right, just kidding. Well, I don't get paid by Adobe, but I will still vouch for Lightroom and Photoshop because I use them daily, all the time for all my work, and they're really great products. As I was saying, it just, I don't know, for $9.99 a month, that seems, sure, it adds up over 1 year, but it also allows you to kind of budget, $10 a month to have both things. And I think that having Photoshop along with Lightroom and just a little preview for the videos, the Lightroom videos that are to come, we are going to show you guys how they both integrate with each other and how you can use them together with the cloud service.
Right.
But both programs together add up to a really, really powerful photo editing tool, and the price is really, really good, considering that, just a couple years ago, you had to spend hundreds of dollars just right off the bat to buy the whole suite. It was very expensive.
And then you were super bummed when the new version came out and it had something that really would work for you. Now, if you don't feel like you have to upgrade as much, the standalone still is fine. And it's clear from these leaks that it will still be offered as a standalone version. Maybe this is the last time. It's hard to say for sure. Adobe probably is carefully weighing the pros and cons of taking this program that has, a good market share as a standalone program and making it a subscription-based only. But two huge features that are in the new Lightroom, HDR and Fusion panoramas. Now, some of this was translated from French because the leaks were on French electronics retailers' site. So I don't know if it's going to be Fusion, but that's what they're calling it. they're like, we can't just call it photo merge. That's Photoshop's thing, even though we're the same company. So we got to come up with something. Let's call it fusion panoramas.
We're jumping ahead though,
Well,
so
let's stick with this for a second.
all right.
Since we're already talking about it.
Okay, well, the feature that I'm most excited about, which isn't really a feature, is that they are promising optimizing the software, so faster processing speeds, which is huge because to me, I feel like Lightroom is really slow sometimes, especially when you have a really large catalog with a lot of pictures, and sometimes you can't really, you know, get out of that. So if they can actually make it faster with our current software, that would be really, really awesome. So I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Right. So there may be less reason to buy the bundle Photoshop and Lightroom, because really, there are times I certainly go to Photoshop. I do less, you know, portrait touch-ups than you do. So other than photo merging in Photoshop, and I don't really go to Photoshop for HDR, the big one is Photomatix HDR, which is a $100 program. And Scott, this is the person I've been collaborating with and has been sending me some thoughts on some of this stuff, is, you know, I think that's going to put a huge dent in their sales, because just buying Lightroom now gets you probably everything that Photomatix would have gotten you, plus all of Lightroom as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be really interesting. The speed improvements are supposed to come from the GPU. I don't feel like Lightroom is slow. You think about what it's doing. It's holding all of those images in there and then presenting them to you to edit quickly. And you know, what can we compare it to? There are other faster programs. It's true. Like what is the one? Capture One. A lot of people like Capture One.
Do they?
No. What's the other one that everybody likes?
Photomechanic?
Photomechanic.
But that's only for sorting pictures.
Yeah, say that's only for sorting. So when you think about the whole package that Lightroom gives you, I mean, Zach said that he feels like his Lightroom is almost unusable. It's so slow.
Yeah. Well, Photomechanic's a little bit more of a niche product. I feel like Photomechanic is really designed for, well, another thing you can do with Photomechanic is it has, you can configure it to export stuff to certain website services and organizations. Like, for example, I know this photographer that she's done, well, she's a fine art photographer, but she's done some photojournalism stuff, and she submitted stuff to the Associated Press through Photomechanic. And then the other people that I know that use it are wedding photographers who shoot thousands of pictures, and then with Photomechanic, it renders previews like that, and it does it on the full screen, so you can like just fly through the whole through culling. And I've used it before, and it's really useful, but I didn't feel like the cost of it was really.
It's not cheap, is it?
It's not cheap. So anyway, but Lightroom does definitely give you a lot more flexibility, a lot more tools. It seems like it's, you know.
And I see people asking, you know, is it worth the upgrade? The upgrade price has typically been about $80. Is it worth it to upgrade from 5 to 6? Well, let me ask you this. Well, first we need to know, let me ask you this. Do you feel like your Lightroom 5 is slow? If you don't, do you feel like you want to do a lot of panoramas or experiment with HDR? If none of those, if you don't answer yes to any of those, Lightroom 5 is probably going to continue to be fine for you.
That's true.
But
yeah.
So we'll see. I saw somebody tweeting at one of the Adobe guys and said, I'm really excited about this HDR. And they're like, this is an unannounced product. We don't comment. So I thought that was funny.
Cool. So let's move on to our week in review. Sticking with the Lightroom theme, we already mentioned it, but again, we released the first video in a series of many more videos to help you guys learn how to use Lightroom. So this one covers the library module, and it shows you how to import pictures, how to create a catalog, how to organize your pictures, tag them, color, label them, pick them, everything.
Right.
It's a really, really, really nice video.
It's really, really nice.
Really, really, really nice.
I'll just add that we just talked about Lightroom 6, and clearly I made this with Lightroom 5. These videos will be updated with Lightroom 6 shortly after it comes out, and people who buy them now will have access to those updates as well. I'd love to see a sale during this podcast. That would be exciting.
A sale?
Yeah, like somebody buy one. Buy the thing.
Of course you would. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
So, we can move on and talk a little bit about, well, we usually mention that we had a critique this past week, and I think this one was a good one. We had a little bit of a meltdown in the comments.
Well, do we really need to talk about that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think we work really hard to be really nice and constructive.
Yeah.
And it was a picture that we actually said lots of nice things about. But then I don't know what they took personally. They did apologize too. No, they didn't, But
It's okay. I mean, even if they reject, I am totally fine with people rejecting our criticism.
oh yeah, that's true. I'm fine with that too.
I don't think that,
But they didn't reject our criticism. They were like, well,
they got a little hurt. Their feelings got a little hurt.
Got hurt. So this, well,
that's fine.
Right. Well, I kind of want to ask people. I wonder if it was my comment of, this doesn't have a whole lot of impact.
I said that.
You said that, and then I said it seems like something we would see on a hotel wall.
Yeah, which actually, I mean,
Which
like
then
I
you
said,
said, wouldn't you
you'd
be
be psyched about that?
I would be psyched, but it
Yeah.
has that kind of feel of like it's nice, but it's not like.
And
World press
John
photo.
Mayfield came along and he
had a very nice response.
Had a very nice response. And I just want to reiterate what he said that, one, you are totally welcome to reject all the critique that we give you. I mean, this is opinion. Yeah, that's fine. Our word is definitely not the last word. Secondly, there are times when we get pictures that are great, and if you've stuck around to see how through the few minutes where Toby takes time to explain how we pick images, and you'll see that there are a lot of images that we pick because of their merit, because they appeal to us and we like them, and we like to talk about why we like them and then give a little bit of criticism or feedback. And there are pictures that we think aren't maybe great pictures, but that there are things specifically that we can help or specific advice that we can give that will help that person and then other people maybe learn from that image and do something better the next time. So anyway, I think this person's picture falls into the category of those really nice photos that we didn't really have a ton of feedback to give, but also we didn't have a ton of great stuff to say. I mean, it was a beautiful picture of a flower, and it was simple, and it was great. But there was nothing really new about it to me.
Right.
There was, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
There's just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
So,
but,
I just, I wanted to put that tease out there a little bit for folks to watch and to think about. And also, I want people to think about, is it a compliment or not to say this looks like something that would be on a hotel wall? I'm just curious.
Okay. It depends on I think it depends on the delivery, and it depends on...
Oh, that looks like it belongs on a hotel wall.
Yeah. So, but just keep in mind, and I responded to this person. I don't ever respond to troll comments because I think they're stupid.
Well, this wasn't a troll comment.
And this wasn't. I think that
he
this person's feelings were genuinely hurt, and I don't want anybody to get discouraged because we don't give them the feedback that they want. To understand that, this is supposed to be a learning experience, and we're always supposed to give feedback, even when we have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to, find something constructive to say. So, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's move on to news. The first news is Ansel Adams would be 113 years old today.
113. Let's take
Which
a moment.
Is not as old as I would imagine, as I would expect him to be.
Not
Well,
as old.
no.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that maybe he would be older than that.
Because all of his pictures are black and white.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Speaking of birthdays, yesterday was Photoshop's 25th birthday. Mm-hmm. What is more
Seems like
interesting? Ansel Adams, 113, dead. But Photoshop, a program, 25.
That seems like a long time considering how long computers have been around and been around in the public.
It does seem like a long time?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Early versions of Photoshop were pretty interesting. They released a kind of neat music video. You know, it's just something that is in society now too. The term photoshopping in popular culture. It's really interesting. And I was trying to compare it to something else. What else has been around this long? Like, well, Word or word processing type programs, but it doesn't have, no one talks about it. Oh, I'm going to word that up. So, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting and, clearly an interesting program.
Yep. So next in our news, this Hong Kong startup called Dio has released the first drop-in filter system.
Yeah.
Drop-in filter adapter called Owl. Owl, like the bird.
So this is interesting because it allows you to do very quick filter changes because you can just pop it in or out. That's the upside. The downside is it doesn't happen at the end of the lens. You can see here in this little video going back and forth. It happens between the lens and the body. So there's another benefit of that. You can get a much smaller filter. You think about the end of your lens, the camera end of your lens is pretty small. Whereas with some lenses, the opposite end, what do you call the opposite end of the lens?
What do you mean, like the part that you screw into the camera?
No, the other part, the part that you point at stuff.
I don't know, the front of the lens?
The front of the lens. The front of the lens, yes. The front of the lens can be quite large. In fact, we just talked about that Sigma 150 to 600. It's got a 105 millimeter filter, but all the way at the other end, it's got this. So, they'll be cheaper because it's a much smaller amount of glass. So that's pretty nifty. It's really it's only really going to be offered in these Sony E mounts and Micro Four Third mounts at the beginning because it's really tricky to change that distance with some cameras between the end of the lens and the camera itself without running into issues like that's what extension tubes do, and that changes your whole minimum focus and all of that stuff. But if you're really like this idea, I can't think of times that I need to change filters that fast that I want something sitting there. And when I think about the GH4 that we're using...
Well, when you have neutral density filters, you're working with neutral density filters, then you don't have a variable one. That would be helpful.
Yep.
But I want to ask you, what kind of quality are they offering with these filters?
Well, because it's a smaller amount of glass, hopefully it is good quality. But we don't know for sure.
And I'm sorry I was reading the comments, but did you say what sizes they come in?
Well, they don't have to come in any special size because...
Oh, I see.
Remember the back of the...
Oh, because it's a... Yep, got it. Okay.
Now they all know you don't pay attention.
They all knew that.
So, it's true, they did. So that's interesting. And then, there's an alternative to this, and that is a magnetic system that goes out on the end of the lens that they just pop on and off. And they also have the Lee plates that you can slide in. Now, when we did the Montana trip, a couple of folks have the really nice Lee systems, which instead of screw-on, you put this device at the end of your lens and you drop plates in. And they're not necessarily faster because the thing that is at the end of your lens is often so big that you take that on or off. And poor Martin, some of the times we stopped, he wanted to use that. And by the time he got it all set up, everybody was ready to go again. So actually, there you go, Martin. This is for you. But only Micro Four Thirds and Sony E mount so far. It's interesting. I love all of these little all of these little products that are coming along, and the internet has just allowed this stuff to flourish.
Yeah.
All these niche little markets.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, maybe a review of that is coming to a YouTube channel near you.
Oh, and Jeffrey makes the great point of that is really handy for a fisheye because fisheyes, unless you have a really fancy setup, don't accept any filters on the end because they got a big bulgy lens that's convex.
Right.
And you can't put filters on that, but you could on the other eye. That's great, Jeffrey. I'm glad people in the chat room are thinking.
Yeah. So next piece of news is that FAA has released drone regulations at last. I guess
they've announced that these is what the drone regulations will be that they're working on.
Enforced
No.
Okay.
Or not implemented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or they're not being, got it.
Yep.
Okay, so do you want to talk about the first one?
You read them and then I'll talk about them.
Okay, well, your description of them is really vague, so I'm just going to read it as is, because that's what I'm supposed to do. But commercial, unquote, private still the Wild West.
So this applies to commercial drone applications. Private drones, there's still no real regulations other than, you know, the no-fly zones and things of that sort. At least I don't think there are. This applies to commercial, because right now, technically, you can't go to the local real estate agent and say, hey, I could fly some drones around the house for you. Give me $500. That's illegal. But this would allow you to do that as long as you follow these rules. And what are those rules, Christina?
The total weight of the drone and the camera, the gear that is being flown around, should be no more than 55 pounds. It should be in the daytime only, under 500 feet above ground, and no faster than 100 miles per hour. So.
Yep. And they must stay within your sight, which...
Within your sight?
Yes, within your sight.
S-I-T-E or S-I-G-H-T?
Whichever one is the correct one
Sight.
that you can see. Don't try to make me look dumb with what's written there.
I am genuinely
Actually,
questioning
typed.
what it's supposed to say.
What is it? What's sight?
It's sight with it. It's not the. You spelled it wrong.
Okay.
But I was wondering if it
Well,
was
it's pasted in the show notes. Remember, the show notes are down below this video. And if you're watching this video on the web page, remember, if you want to be part of the chat room, you need to come over to the YouTube page where the chat room exists.
So what does this do to Amazon's delivery service?
Well, it kills it, because Amazon's delivery service, there's not going to be some operator that can see the drone as it flies 3 miles to your house. So, and that's the first thing everybody's saying is, well, the two things everybody's saying is the rule of must stay within your sight, S-I-G-H-T, is silly. And people have been asking, does the first person viewers count? So you wear the little goggles, or like David's got or Steve has, the you know, you can see what it sees. Does that work as long as you can see what it sees? No, they say no. You have to be able to see it. But it, you know, I think this is a great step in the right direction. It is certainly a lot more or a lot less regulatory than people thought they were going to come up with. Mm-hmm. They thought you're going to make you have a full-on pilot's license.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if Amazon would probably, you know, be in talk, if they really want to push out a drone service, be in talks with the government about, you know, making a deal about regulations that are only...
Some lobbying.
Yeah. Applicable to them. Yeah. Okay, so Nikon D7200 rumors.
Right.
And I want to ask you, where does the Nikon D7200 fall in their line of DSLRs?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's let's talk about where the D7100 falls. The D7100 is, to make it equivalent to what you understand, like the Canon 70D.
Okay.
Roughly.
The D7100?
D7100.
Okay.
The D7200 will probably be in that same place. Mm-hmm. Now, what Nikon has hinted at is that they will have a competitor to the 7D Mark II.
Which they don't currently have.
They don't really, no. Because you've got to, above the D7100, they don't have a higher level crop sensor camera. Next thing you come up to, kind of going up in price or capabilities, in some respect, is the D610. You know, full frame, and then the D750. But here are the rumors for the D7200. A new 24 megapixel sensor. It's currently, the D7100 has currently got a 24 megapixel sensor. A D750 styled body, this makes sense, with a tilting screen. It hasn't had a tilting screen before. No mention if it's touch or not. An Expeed 4 processor, that's their newest. MultiCAM, autofocus system, 3500 DX2, all sounds good, it's high. 51 AF points. Nikon always does a good job of putting a lot of AF points in there and getting good coverage.
It's definitely one of their strengths.
But, you know, they're not all cross-type. In fact, usually fewer of them are cross-type than what Canon offers. So, again, you gotta, I'm not saying that makes Canon better or that makes Nikon better, just gotta balance what you're kind of shooting for. Built-in Wi-Fi, 6 frames per second, 16 RAW plus JPEG buffer. Now the D7100, I like that camera a lot, but it's got kind of a pitiful buffer. So this is better. 1080p at 60 frames per second. No mention of 4K. I'd be shocked if it had 4K. Video aperture will be adjustable during live view. So that's one of those quirky Nikon things that's been an issue in the past. So that all sounds good. We really thought we were going to hear about it last week at CP Plus. Nothing at all. Now we're hearing that it will be in the first 2 weeks of March, probably at the end of March 13th is what people are saying. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So next on the news is the 11 to 24 f4L, and this is a Canon. Is that a Canon lens?
Yeah, I know I screwed up because I started talking about Lightroom way too much early on, but I just want to mention one other thing that we skipped about Lightroom 6 feature, and that is face detection. Somebody asked me on Facebook the day before or something that this announcement came out, do you think it'll have face detection? I was like, nah. Apparently it's going to. And I think that shows that this is being targeted at both professionals and your amateurs, family photography, that want to be able to say, here's all the pictures of my daughter and find them all for me in my catalog. I was surprised. Are you excited about the face recognition feature? Why not?
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Why don't you care?
Well, for for
us.
work, maybe for sorting my own pictures, but I don't know. I'm really bad. Confession. I'm really bad at keywording and tagging pictures, so I don't see why. I mean, I've been trying to do it on import more often these days, but I don't see how I would. If I don't do that, I would work it into my workflow.
Well, what you're bringing into your library? A wedding that is clearly labeled, Brad and Anna's wedding.
Sure.
And then so if you need to find pictures of Anna, you go to that, and there they are.
Yeah, but what if it brings up pictures of Anna and Brad and then everybody else that went to the wedding?
Well, no, I'm saying you're right. You don't need it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But you do need to keyword and tag so that you could say, I want to find all of my ring pictures from every wedding. Because right now, if I asked you, I'm putting together this package for the local jewelry store. I want to show them how awesome we are at photographing rings.
Nope.
Yeah, it would be a pain in the butt.
Nope.
So
ain't nobody got time for
I'm
that.
very proud of my tagging and keywording up to a certain point. I've gotten a little lazy as well. I'm excited for face recognition, and I'm excited for further down the road, I want content-aware recognition. So you can say, find me every ring picture. You can do that on Google+. If you've put your photos up on Google+, you can search them and say, find me all my tree pictures. And it doesn't do a job, but it does a job.
Pretty close, huh?
It is close, yeah, it's cool.
Okay.
Now let's move on.
So we're going to talk about the 11-24 f4L, the Canon, and it has, remind me, it has already been released, or is it going to be released?
It is just starting to ship in Asia.
Okay.
Coming soon to the rest of the world.
So there's been an article that did some testing, and they've come up with this term that I've never heard before, but maybe it's been around for a while, called onioning.
You haven't heard of that?
No, in the bokeh.
See, this I think is a good balance to, well, go ahead.
Okay. So there's supposedly a lot of onioning in the bokeh. This was concluded by doing a lot of pixel peeping of the files. So, but the argument is made that for a $3,000 lens, you probably shouldn't be getting that, which is a good point. But then also, it's just who's gonna look at the onions?
Let's talk about
rings.
what onioning is. And I hesitated to show this a little bit because I think it adds to you all one of those things that you now are going to look for and worry about. Onioning happens for a variety of reasons. Some that I'll be honest, I can't even really describe. But basically, it is a pattern in your bokeh balls that looks like a sliced onion.
Bokeh balls.
Was that
that's what we're calling them.
That's what I just called them. Your points of light that are out of focus on some lenses will onion. Now these are not examples from the 11-24. I haven't looked at what the 11-24 is offering yet. And again, I don't want to talk about this for too long, but you really have to do some serious pixel peeping to see this. On some cheaper lenses, it can be a little bit more apparent. It's usually, I shouldn't say cheaper lenses, it's usually lenses that are optically sharp but have something else going on that causes the onioning. Because lenses that aren't optically sharp, that stuff is pretty nice and soft out of focus in the background, so it doesn't get a chance to be really oniony like this. So I just, you know, it's disappointing that Canon has got a $3,000 lens coming out that is a nice range, and it's supposed to be nice and sharp, but maybe is a little too oniony for us. And we all know what onions make us do.
The thing about
Make us cry.
these onions in the bokeh is that for an 11 to 14 lens, or 11 to 24 lens, with a maximum aperture of f4, I doubt that a lot of people are gonna be looking at bokeh or shooting lots of pictures with bokeh. I mean, this is an ultra wide angle lens, and
That's a good point.
it's probably going to be, for the most part, used for landscapes and pictures where you don't need a lot of bokeh. So
get over it, people. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, basically.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
how many times are you really going to run into it if
Right.
you use that lens?
And it's similar to, again, I may feel very differently if I bought this lens and I feel like I'm running into it often. But it's similar to some of the other things where the cameras come out and there's an issue with them. Not the 70D center focus point, that's bad. Where you really have to work hard to make that camera exhibit that. And people are like, it's completely broken. No, come on, be realistic here. So, along with the lens discussion, the people are starting to get their hands on the first copies of the Sigma 24 f1.4. Yes, I will get my hands on it as soon as possible as well and be reviewing that. We talked about it last week, maybe being a little bit of a hard sell, but at that price point, it's sounding like it has excellent sharpness, and comments on the bokeh are much more positive than they were the 35 and 50. Now, we've had a conversation, and somebody commented on my review of the 50-1.4 that it's too sharp, and they like the Canon f1.2 and its kind of creaminess better.
Sure, I can see that, but I also have shot with a 50-1.4 or 1.2 enough, and with
Well, you shot with it for 2 years.
Yeah, and with the Sigma 50 to not really, I mean, for me, so I would probably be in the camp of people that would want to shoot with a 50 f1.4 or the Canon 50-1.2, because what I try to achieve in my pictures is kind of that film look. And so the focal length is right, but yeah, I mean, film images aren't super duper sharp is what I found from using my medium format film camera. They're not really that sharp. So I guess I would want to lean towards that, but in comparison, using the Sigma 50, I just really love the image quality out of that lens much, much more. So I don't know. Plus I don't shoot wide open, but I shoot at pretty large or pretty wide apertures. So I still get some softness just by, I guess, sort of kind of missing focus a little bit. And you can also just not sharpen, super sharp, have your pictures be super sharpened. So I don't miss focus a lot, just for the record. But
that's good.
But yeah, I mean, shooting at wide apertures is...
Sorry, I was just fixing the poll link. Sorry, folks, I had linked to the back end of it, but now I'm linking to the front end of it. So if you haven't taken the poll and you'd like to, it's on the 25 years of Photoshop page right down below the video, so you can go take that. I will fix it under the video soon.
All right, so we're done with our news?
We are done with our news.
So we're going to move on to our discussion. And this is a topic that we've actually been wanting to discuss for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I don't know how long we will go on it. We'll try to keep it pretty brief.
I feel like we've touched on it a couple of times, even recent, because we said, oh, we're going to talk about Photoshopping, how much is too much.
Right.
And we've kind of put it out there. But I want,
Yeah. So the reason that I would like to talk about this is I came across an article on SLR Lounge, and it is Nigel Barker, who is a fashion photographer, a world-renowned fashion photographer. He was speaking out a little bit about in the commercial and fashion industry, and the first thing that I read the article, and then I went back and I was like, okay, well, who's commenting on this? It's a male photographer. And then who wrote the article? It's a male author. And I don't want to go all feminist on you guys by any means.
Go all feminist on us.
But I kind of wanted to approach it from a female perspective because I do feel like a lot of the subjects that I retouch, while there are many males, there are also female. But you don't really hear a ton of females talk about it. So, and you know, I'm not assuming that all females would agree with me or have the same opinion, but I just would like, you know, the majority of photographers in the photography industry are male. Males are the majority. So I just think that it would be nice to have a discussion, everybody together. So Nigel Barker, his kind of rule of thumb, or his like line that he will not cross, according to him, is altering bone structure. So this could mean like lengthening somebody's neck.
Is or is not bone structure?
So he will not bone structure. That is what he will not do.
Because you can't get a longer neck without getting more bones or something, more vertebrae in there.
Right. So like just physically shaping a limb or a body part to the, you know, to a point that would be like altering the bone structure.
Right. But sculpting all of the
that's okay.
Skin and flesh is okay.
So
which that leaves a good bit of room,
that leaves
right?
a lot of room.
Okay.
The author says he completely doesn't, you know, he doesn't care. He will alter bone structure if he has to. And his reasoning behind that is that one, you know, the commercial industry has been doing this for a really long time, even before Photoshop existed. And two, you know, when you're creating a product or when you are marketing a product, you want to show people the absolute best and most perfect version of the product in order to sell it, because people want, you know, people want perfection, people want beauty, people want the ultimate, you know. Anyway, so
dramatic pause.
Well, what I wanted to say with regards to that was that, I mean, first of all, just from a marketing and consumer protection perspective, isn't that kind of false advertising to like Photoshop a product in such a way that like it does not represent the actual, you know, real life?
What kind of products are we talking about? Are we talking about food? Are we talking about a person?
Everything. Well, right now we're talking about everything. So
a shampoo bottle? Ooh,
yeah, so I'm looking at it first of all from that perspective.
Okay.
It seems like false advertising to me a little bit.
Yep.
I understand that there has to be some retouching, like, you know, if you pick off dust off of this like burger or like fries or whatever that might have been there and you need to retouch it.
Dusty burgers.
Or like plump up the saturation and the color. That seems all right. That seems reasonable if it makes it look a little bit more true to life. And but yeah, and then when you go as far as to like edit people, I feel like you have to be a lot more careful because, you know, you're altering this perception of like what something should look like. And I do think that while marketers should have promotion and you know, the best interests of the company in mind in terms of promoting and marketing a product, they should also have some social responsibility with, you know, and take into account the fact that this is going to affect people's perceptions of what beauty is and what things should look like and what. So with that in mind, I'd like to hear from you guys in the chat, you know, what is your opinion on retouching? And, you know, we've talked about, one of the things that I do encourage when we do the critiques is that, you know, when I see pictures that I see that have been unretouched, I definitely encourage going through them through Lightroom, adding some clarity, adding some sharpening to make the pictures come alive a little bit.
Right.
But along with that, we also kind of really dislike or don't love pictures that are overly edited and exaggerated.
Yep.
So
okay. Well, one, chat room, remember that this is one of these. This is a good question. We would love for you to take a moment after the show is over and put a comment in with your thoughts on this. I'm going to share a couple comments that we already got on Facebook about it. I think when we're talking about humans, that there is a very fine line that is very quickly crossed often with all of our celebrities. There was a huge leak of Beyonce photos this week. Did you hear about that?
No.
Bunch of untouched photos of her. She got rough skin. Not rough skin. She got freaking normal skin.
Right.
Like all of
Yeah.
us. And so I really, and I don't, I keep coming back to young, impressionable women and men too, looking at these people, idolizing people and thinking that they're perfect and hating themselves because they got blemishes. And we all got blemishes. All of us. Those people have just amazing makeup artists and then people who spend hours photoshopping them. And so I really would love to see, like the Dove campaigns and stuff, I really would love to see us pull back some from that. Food, photoshopping food, I don't care. Photoshop the food. We get Consumer Reports, and there was a funny article a couple weeks ago that was the box of food and the picture on it, and then what Consumer Reports pulled out of the box and cooked, like a blueberry waffle that was just pitiful, and like these chicken strips that they were gorgeous on the box,
Right.
beautiful.
And
You
they're
pull
this
it out,
like
it's
slimy,
right.
like
I mean,
old decaying piece of.
I don't know. If you're buying food in a box, which we do sometimes, I'm not saying you're a terrible person if you do that. If you do that, you gotta expect that what's going to come out of the box is not going to be amazing.
Right.
So,
But
now,
at the same time, I'm not saying that. But there's like a huge discrepancy between what the product actually looks like and then what's showcased in the picture.
Yeah.
So in that case,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Now, Corey's asked this before, and we've talked about it before, is like how much photoshopping is too much when you're submitting images to us. Can you take out light posts? Can you, stuff like that. I can't come up with any other examples at the moment.
That's fine. I mean,
can you add in some grass over a bare patch that was in your picture?
Yeah. I see. So I can see
Can you
where.
answer that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that stuff is okay, just
Yes.
in short. A longer response than that is, when we take into consideration the effect that photoshopping a person has on other people versus the effect that photoshopping a light pole out of a picture has on other people. I mean, you can see why it's worth, really thinking twice about how you're going to Photoshop this person versus thinking twice about whether or not you're going to Photoshop this pole. So I think that, if you're going to make your composition stronger, if your photo is really going to benefit from taking out a pole or making some edits in Photoshop and adding contrast, adding sharpness, adding, saturation, go for it, by all means. But, when we're considering people and the fact that they are humans, so this is something that I encountered early on, when I first started shooting weddings. And one of the things that I would do, which I'd been taught by watching, wedding photography courses online, is, you want to make your brides look, skinny so that they will like their picture. And so there were a couple of times where I physically made my brides smaller. And one, I felt uncomfortable doing it because I didn't tell them that I was going to do this. I just simply showed them the pictures. And as, even if I tried to be very subtle about it, I think that you can still kind of tell. So, I felt funny about it. And now I don't at all, not even one tiny bit, because one, I would be imposing a view of this person that, I don't necessarily know whether or not they agree with, that that's what they look like. And two, it's just really disrespectful because why aren't they good enough the way that they look? And while it is my job to showcase them in the best light and in the best poses and the best everything, I won't go as far as to retouch them unless they have. One rule of thumb that I've heard that really resonated with me was if it's not permanent, then leave it. So if they have a zit, then maybe take it out if it's a wedding picture. They won't want to see that zit forever and ever in their wedding picture. But if it's anything else that is permanent, it's a part of their body, then why would you retouch it unless they ask you to?
Yeah.
So.
John wants to know how the light pole feels, though. The poor little light pole. It's getting chopped right out of the pictures.
I know.
That's true.
The poor light pole.
I think that's good. I said I was going to touch on the posts. People have made several people made this comment. I think it really depends on the genre that you're working with, what level of photoshopping or retouching is appropriate. We've said this before, so just briefly, anything photojournalism, you're not even really supposed to crop.
No. I think you can crop.
Well, it depends on where you're going with it.
Right. Does it alter the meaning and the content of the
Yes.
photograph?
Okay.
With the intention to omit something that may have been part of the scene. That,
Right. There was a picture from last year sometime that got a lot of press because the little orphan boy in, a refugee camp, like trudging towards the camp and looks completely alone. It was cropped in such a way you pull back the uncropped version and there's his whole family 15 steps behind him. Still sad, but he wasn't completely alone. Really changed the meaning of that. So yeah, I think that's good. And then, other people, I think they're thinking, not journalism, but otherwise there's not really any lines to the amount of photoshopping. I think they might change their tune a little bit when we're thinking about people and things of that sort. But for general pictures submitted to us, if we can tell, but see, here's the problem. If we can tell it's been clearly photoshopped, that's definitely too much photoshopping.
Right. So it has to be well done.
Yes. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some. I mean, people make some amazing. And I said Giuseppe has made this comment too. He feels like as soon as you start to do some serious manipulation to it, it becomes a graphic, not a photo.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
So again, and
it's still art. I mean, we would still.
Well, yeah. Yep. I don't know if we would critique it because. Well,
I think we would.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
We, I don't know. Try and see. We'll see if you want to do that. Now. I want to talk briefly about the NX500. I got asked about that this week. That is a Samsung camera that is very similar to, switching gears here quickly, it is very similar to the the Sony A5100. Let me get this up for you. So there we go. The NX500 looks like the Sony A5100, which is the camera that we took to Italy. And we liked. It's got that APS-C size sensor in this, basically just a little bit bigger than a decent point and shoot. It's got the flip up screen. And they wanted my opinion on this camera. They were thinking about the Sony A5100, but now this is pretty tempting. And I have to say, I'm going to bring you all back to me and magic. I have not gotten to use this as much this week as I wanted. We went out, we walked out of the house like once, and I took it with me and took some pictures. Really enjoy this camera. You used it at the shoot. We had to cover the dominoes, and I drug you along and made you take some pictures with it too. And you generally had positive opinions of it.
Yeah.
The viewfinder.
And it's not an issue to this camera. I am kind of one of those people like totally hate electronic viewfinders. I don't totally hate it. I really don't like them. I do kind of hate them.
Wasn't your issue mostly the fact that, the sensor comes on and off so easily?
Right, it does. So if I bring the camera, if I'm trying to be sneaky and bring the camera, that's why I said it. That's why I said it's not particular to this camera. Yeah. It's just in general.
Right.
But if you bring the camera too close to you, even if you have the thing popped up, and you're trying to be sneaky, then you can't, because then the viewfinder will come on. And you said, well, just turn it off. But the thing with that is that when you put the camera up to your eye, you'll have to manually turn
push the button,
the viewfinder on, which is not a big deal, except, I don't know, if you're going for speed, that's not going to work out.
Right. Well, here's what I want to say. So this NX500, after using, I have not had my hands on the NX500. I've only had my hands on this Samsung here. And I have to say, I love the touchscreen. I love the operation of this camera. And the image quality of this camera is spectacular. I still haven't done careful side-by-side tests with full frame or even like the D5500, which also seems to be very good, especially at the higher ISOs. It is an improvement over the D5300. Nothing jaw-dropping, but an improvement. I have to say this NX500 looks really good. It's probably got the same sensor in there. You can shoot 4K in this little body, and it's going to have that really nice touchscreen. If you're not a professional, I really need to, I think, separate. And I don't think you're a professional looking at the NX500, but the NX1 even can do some things okay. But I love the fact that you can email from the, in the house. I take a picture, I email it to myself right on the back of the camera very easily. It's just nice. It's a real big step forward in form and function, or function inside, not form so much because it's basically DSLR. But here is, bring you back to the screen. Here's my problem with NXs still at this time. As we scroll down, and we say, show me the lenses. And it's not a terrible selection, but it could feel limiting. So this is what you need to do. You need to say to yourself, well, where am I going with photography? Am I just having fun, taking nice pictures on vacation? Then there are plenty of options here for you. Some nice pancakes, some longer primes, some decent professional style lenses, or that offer constant aperture. Even a macro is there. But if you're a professional, you think, well, maybe I'll get into architecture. There's no tilt shift options. There's no real good adapters either. The adapters right now for NX to EF or NX to Nikon are dumb adapters. You lose all aperture control, you lose image stabilization, you lose focus. If you're doing video, that's fine. So, I don't know. That's my only hesitation about the Samsung line right now. And it's a little pricey. Well, I don't feel like this one is. I'm talking about the NX one. So, I can't remember who asked about it, but I just wanted to say that. And this kind of leads into, here's another place to see a bigger picture of all of the lenses and the cameras that Samsung offers right now. And along with the lack of lenses, you have this kind of hesitation of, well, where is Samsung going? Are they going to change their direction anytime soon? You don't know, and you don't have much to fall back on if they do. Again, if you're just trying to get decent pictures, that NX500 looks great, and if Samsung falls apart in 3 years, you just sell it and move on to something else. It's not like you're a professional that's going to be like, oh my God, I've built up this collection of 5 different lenses and now I feel really put out. So I like these cameras, and I really hope that Canon and Nikon is looking at them and going, ooh, they did a nice job there. Let's incorporate that or that. The menu is nice. There's a lot of power in it. You have a lot of options in this camera. Professional level options similar to the GH4 that we're recording on, but they are all presented in a really clean, functional way, and I appreciate that.
That's good.
Even the GH4 menu, I feel like gets a little bogged down and a little messy in there. But, and the Canon and Nikon menus are they're just the same that they've been forever. That's not terrible, but they could use a really big refresh. Somebody else wanted us to have a discussion about mirrorless in general. I think I put it in the show notes and said, what did they say? Sorry. I lost it. So I don't have it in the show notes. But it basically was, what are my general thoughts on mirrorless? And that is a big question, because mirrorless, we've got the Micro Four Thirds size, we've got the Nikon size, and somebody asked in the chat room recently, they said, do you think Canon or Nikon will release a competitive mirrorless APS? Oh, you did specify APS-C in 2015. No, I don't think they will. Nikon says we got our 1-inch sensor mirrorless cameras. Get those if you want. They do wonderful stuff. And they might even be coming out with a 4K one at some point this year or early next. And Canon's released their EOS M3 not in America. So that tells you how well they think it's going to sell here in America. Doesn't even bother to release it.
Why is it not doing as well here?
Well, I'm not sure. Mirrorless in general only currently still makes up a very small percentage of the market. The latest stats I saw from 2014 were like 7 or 8% of the camera market. That is a very small number. I think there is, and I see this, and Roy and Ruby probably can echo this as well, the questions we get on Facebook, I want to get a better camera, and in everybody's mind still is DSLR. Mm-hmm. We certainly see more questions about Sony and other mirrorlesses this year in the last couple of months than we had in the past. But man, when I started last year, everybody came and said, I want a DSLR. And a lot of times I'd say, check out the Sony. They'd be like, hey, that looks pretty great. And it's smaller and it's just as good, maybe even better than some of the entry-level DSLRs you're looking at. But big picture mirrorless market, I think there is a lot to love there. But it's hard to, this person, sorry, I lost their question. I'm sorry, it's hard to make general statements. Some of the mirrorless, like the ones that use the standard 4/3 mount, you've got a huge array of lenses available to you. If we come over here and we say, look at B&H, for example, and I love this little, the lens mount over here. We're in the mirrorless system lenses. You can see Canon EF-M has got 14. Fuji X-Mount's got 53 different lenses. Leica's got 4. If you're buying a Leica, you don't care. Micro Four Thirds, your standard that Panasonic uses, Olympus uses. Who else uses that? Basically it. You've got 103. That's a lot of different options. You've got your wides, you've got your wide zooms, you've got your fast lenses, some telephotos. So, prices are reasonable. But again, because we're talking smaller quantities, prices are still, for many things, a little bit higher than going with a DSLR. Does that mean I say you should go with DSLR? No, you should really look at the type of photography you're doing. If I was not working professionally in the wedding industry, I would be very happy with a mirrorless camera, walking around with a mirrorless.
Yeah.
And even I think we're very close for them to, and there are people out there happily shooting some weddings and things like that with a mirrorless. The focus still, even the NX1, lower light, it still suffers a little bit. I see more confusion from it than I do from even something like the D7300. It's just these DSLRs with that other type of focus system are just a little bit more competent. Consistently competent. Not a huge difference. That gap is narrowing. I want to stress that. And I think we're going to see crossovers maybe this year, if not in the very near future.
So we want to answer some of your questions too, for those of you who are watching live. So feel free to post those on the chat right now, and we will kind of look through them and pick some to answer.
And Ruby and Roy are in there collecting anything that looks interesting too, and answering stuff as well. Now, I saw somebody fly by a comment way early on in the chat that said, where are the Canon cameras? Because I just got Nikon sitting on the table today. Because I am working on my review of the D5500 and the versus the D5300. Let's put that back away. And so I'd asked people on Instagram a couple days ago, and 5,500 questions. I'll be answering them during the podcast. So I want to take a few moments and answer just a couple of questions that came from Instagram. Matthew wants to know, how good is the touchscreen when it's up to your eye? It allows you to change focus points, ISO, and focusing modes, but is it convenient? First off, I think there was some confusion. I even myself was confused because I heard Nikon say you can adjust things by bringing it up to your eye. The only thing I can tell that you can adjust is focus point. And we mentioned this last week briefly too. You bring it up to your eye like that, and then you can drag your finger around the screen, and it will focus. It'll move the focus point. That's the only thing you can do when it's up to your eye. You can, when it's not up to your eye, you can touch the back of the screen and say, adjust my shutter speed, adjust my f-stop. I can't do that right now because I have a mechanical f-stop lens on the front. Oh, and this is another point when we're talking about Micro Four Thirds and stuff. Without adapters, Nikon especially, you can go find ancient old lenses and throw them on your camera and it works.
Yeah, they won't all be able to focus automatically, but it definitely, I mean, you can get a pancake, or not a pancake, a Nifty 50 for, under $100. Yep. Nice quality Nifty 50.
Yeah. So again, so the touchscreen, I think that being able to set the focus point is interesting. It's useful. It's kind of like an extra thing beyond just being a touchscreen or just a normal touchscreen like we have on the Canon side. But again, it's not much more than that. And somebody else asked, can it be turned off? Yes, you can turn off the touchscreen capabilities completely. But again, it's like on the Canon side where it's pretty hard, or I could say it's impossible to accidentally activate the touchscreen. You have to touch in a specific spot first, with the exception of the focus point. And still, I'm trying right now with my nose to move my focus point. Can I do it? Can I do it? Oh, maybe I moved it. I don't think so. So, I mean, you have to try really hard to accidentally activate the focus point thing when it's up to your face. And all of the other settings, you can't change those without touching the little activate the touchscreen button first. So video capabilities, they seem very similar to the D5300, but they have now added a flat profile picture, which should be better for bringing in and post-processing, grading. I notice, however, I'm renting this D5300 right now. It came, somebody who had it before put 2 flat profiles on it. So they were using it for video work, and it's easy to build your own profile. Not easy. Yeah, it's easy enough to build your own profile and throw it. So, you know, all right, so Nikon added that as a default option, but it's not that big a deal. Are the live view problems fixed from the D5300? Well, I don't quite know what you mean by live view, but Nikon still has that thing where it does not show you exposure preview unless you turn manual movie mode on, and then you have issues with blocking shutter speed. Those are little things that just make me hesitate a little bit and are annoying. So let me say something good to balance. I mentioned the higher ISOs seem great. The camera is little. I mean, it feels like it's getting down into SL1 size and territory. It's hard to judge here because I've got the big 18-140 on the D5300 right now, but we've lost a little bit on the top. It's shrunk down a little bit. The grip is much deeper and better. The camera is more narrow, but the grip comes out more. If you can see where my knuckles fall, they fall right in line with the grip. Over on the D5300, they're sticking out to the side. I don't know if you can really see that. It's so shallow. It's not, it feels heftier in the hand, but with so much less to grip, it's a little like, meh. But I have to say, you know, it's nice. It's nice. I also, you know, if you're not photographing, or if you're not doing video of yourself, I'm starting to prefer the NX1 style touchscreen where it's just articulating here. I don't, you know, because if I wanted to do that, I have to flip it all the way out. But maybe I'm getting a little too picky, a little too crotchety. Is it powerful enough if one is looking to go for the D7100? Well, what kind of power are you looking at? ISO performance? Sure. But it's not going to offer you that frames per second and that focusing speed that is at the D7100 level. And the D700 gives you 2 card slots, weather sealed. So, you know. And somebody else said they're pretty much the same, right? Touchscreen? Yeah, it does seem like ISO performance is better and you lose the GPS, but otherwise.
Cool. So Joe Reynolds, kind of along the lines that we've been talking about today, he asks if we think that mirrorless cameras will eventually be better than DSLRs. Yeah, I mean, I think eventually, but it'll be a while.
Yep. I mean, I think we're gonna get close this year and next. It's that focusing. Got to nail down the more confident focusing.
Yep.
In
just
many
being
other
quicker.
respects, right? In many other respects, they're already better.
One of the things that I feel like people choose DSLRs over, or people started to choose DSLRs over point and shoots, is that lag. The shutter lag that you get after taking a photo.
Yeah.
I think similarly with mirrorless, you get a little bit of a lag that, you know, if you're photographing
Careful
sports,
saying that. Well, yeah,
and you're
okay.
photographing weddings, and you need to be like really quick,
Right.
then you.
Right.
But for most people, it would be fine that there's no lag. You know,
Right.
virtually any.
Well, you got to be careful because there's some that don't have any lag. There are some that have no lag, but your viewfinder, because again, that's electronic, has just a little bit of lag, which can be an issue. So there are just these little things that I think are just going to get worked out in this next couple of months.
Yep.
And I saw Dalibor mention this too. We're talking about the Sony A7 II right now, and Mark II, which I would like to get, is that Sony's been very quiet. CP Plus, nothing from Sony. We should see some follow-ups to the A7S. They need to release more lenses because Sony themselves, they've got a decent amount. Certainly better than NX, but, well, actually that's not true in some mounts, so. But yeah, what was my point? That it's been very quiet from the Sony side. I saw Dalibor mention that and I wanted to echo that. So we should hear more from them soon.
Rose wants to know, for months, the rubber eye cup viewfinder piece for my Canon Rebel has been loose. I finally lost it on vacation last month. How important is it to replace it? I would replace it. Yeah.
Really?
Right.
I lost mine too. I haven't replaced it.
Well, it's more
might be over there.
comfortable if you don't wear glasses. It's a lot more comfortable to put your eye up to it, and then, I mean, I do think that it protects dust from getting in as much as it. So I would replace it. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a protect, and it's rubber, so it catches on the dust. I mean,
catches the cat hair.
It's mostly for comfort.
That's right.
But I don't know how much they are, but I can't imagine that they would be
You
too
can find
much.
third-party ones for $10 or $11 on Amazon. So, Yuri's got a question about converting to DNG on import. So, and I mentioned this in the Lightroom video. If you are importing your images, you have a choice of copying them into your library or copying them in and converting them to DNGs, which is Adobe's RAW format, digital negative file. It's really mixed about this. Some people are passionate about this and say, yes, saves you a little bit of room. You don't really, there's no real downsides.
This is on import?
On import, yeah. And some people don't like the extra wait time that it does take to process these. We personally bring them in as camera raw. We do not convert them until we are backing up and they save a little bit of space. After we're done working with them, we do then usually, not always. We're not consistent as we should be. Yuri has heard that there are some programs like DxO Optics which will only work with the native RAW files and won't work with DNG. So Yuri, this is the first I've heard this, and it does seem like an argument. If you think in the future you might want to pick up one of these other programs and work with it, then you could keep them as RAW. There's just not that. How much space savings is there? What did we, was it about 30%?
Wait. Save it from converting to DNG?
Yeah, if you convert to DNG.
No, it was 2/3 of the size. So the DNG file is 1/3 of the size. So you would save 2/3 of the space.
That's a lot of space.
So for archiving, I think it's fine. I don't think I have a very logical reason, given my friend Steve archives his wedding images as lossy DNGs, and he saves, a ton of space. He does keep his favorites as full RAWs, like the pictures that he has in his portfolio, his really favorite photos. He keeps them as RAWs, but everything else he archives as a lossy DNG. I have seen the files side by side, the full RAW and then the lossy DNG, the compressed lossy DNG, and they're identical. And he showed me how he would edit them in Lightroom, and the dynamic range and the, what do we call it? The
exposure latitude?
Malleability of the settings is pretty much identical. So I don't know why you wouldn't, but I just don't feel like I can really tell my clients, if they wanted I don't know. I feel like with clients' pictures, I should really, not archive them until I'm done working with them, until I've delivered the photos. I wouldn't be okay archiving them or converting them to lossy DNGs on import. I wouldn't be okay with that.
Right. I just think it's a toss-up. I don't have a good answer for you that's definitive. It's hard to believe that that there isn't a way with DxO to say, hey, this is a DNG that came from such and such program. All of that is embedded. So because I haven't heard that, maybe we shouldn't even answer this question, but we had some nice discussions about DNG. How much better is what DxO going to offer you in the future than what you've already done in Lightroom and probably can go back to Lightroom? There are differences in what those programs offer, but is it going to be that much better that you are somebody who wants to convert to DNG for the benefits of space savings, but now feel torn because you might not be able to use DxO in the future at some point? I'd just go with DNG. Yeah. Or buy bigger hard drives and keep them raw.
Yeah, space, somebody said in the comments that space is pretty cheap. So yeah, if you don't have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures, then I would just, John Baba wants to know. I don't know I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
Oh. It's B-A-B-A, Baba.
My question is, his question is, which photographers inspire you now and where you were starting out? Love your videos. Thanks. Well, thank you. Why don't you get us started?
This is one of those questions I think is a common type question, and I don't have a good answer for it. My first answer that comes to mind is the folks I follow on Instagram. And they're not all, some of them are just somebody who started following me because they wanted to be better photographers, and I just like seeing their pictures of whatever it is. I have a post that I talked about Instagram, and I said, here are some people that I think you should follow that are really good and inspiring. Off the top of my head, I don't remember their names, but I know they come up in my Instagram feed every day, and that's inspiring for me to say, I want to get out and shoot, or, ooh, they did a really cool silhouette shot. I want to try something similar like that.
Yeah. Well, for me, the one photographer that I've just always really looked up to, which is, I think, a pretty common answer among photographers, is Jose Villa. He is a film photographer, and he's been in the industry for a really long time, and he does a really, really amazing wedding photography. So he's kind of an inspiration, though. If I look at his work too much, I can quickly get discouraged because I think I will never be that good. So yeah, be careful just kind of when you're looking at other people's pictures for inspiration, because it could be demotivating, and you know. Let's see, who else? I also try to look at other just imagery that isn't necessarily photography. I found that by looking at too much wedding photography or just too much photography in general, I get a little bit too just overloaded with images, and again, I can get discouraged. So artists, like graphic artists and sculptors and like woodworkers, and yeah, just to get inspiration from other places to kind of, I don't know, to keep my, I don't know, the inspiration flowing, I guess. But specific people, I don't know Sue Bryce is a photographer. She photographs women a lot. She photographs men too, but she is kind of a master posing person.
But she would be careful, because she's somebody I have in my mind who sometimes takes that Photoshop level a little too far.
She does, yeah. And I've actually, I've rewatched some of her videos recently, and I do feel like a lot of the language and a lot of the things that she does with, a lot of the language that she uses and a lot of the pictures that she retouches are a little bit, I'm not comfortable with it. But that being said, she is a master poser and is really good at working with people, really good at marketing as well. So Sue Bryce is her name. And who else? I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Maybe this will be a discussion for another time. We should pick our photographers.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I was smiling while you're saying it because I did miss my chance to say that you are my inspiration.
Oh, stop.
You do take very nice pictures, and I have learned a lot from you. And I think most of the people that are in the chat room now know this, but Christina is an excellent photographer, and it's made me way, way better. But I thought of one other person that I had to go way back in my brain, because I think the question kind of said, who did you like when you were first starting out, and when I first started out, John Shaw, and I pulled up his page. I hadn't ever looked at his page. This is before the internet, folks. I bought his photography books because he's really mostly a wildlife photographer, and I thought, I want to be a wildlife photographer. I love being outside. I love taking pictures. Now I realize that most wildlife photographers spend a lot of time sitting still in one place waiting for the animals to come to them, and I get bored. But he's got some really nice work, and I spent a lot of time reading his books early on, and just he was very inspiring. Again, to get out, and my images were nothing like this when I was first shooting with my Film Rebel. But again, it was inspiring, and he's got some nice photography books. Most of them, I think, are all film-based, though. So, John Shaw, and then people on Instagram. I'll try to dig up that post about Instagram with the people I think that you should follow. And I can't get back. Sorry. I can press that, though. Nope. We're stuck on John Shaw. No, I really think we are.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, I know what I was doing. It's getting too old to operate all this stuff. I don't understand this newfangled stuff.
I think it's time to start wrapping up. You're losing it.
I never had it. That's the issue. There is... Crystal says she ordered the video. Awesome. I saw Crystal. I just approved the order. But even before I approved the order, as soon as you come back from PayPal, there should be a link to the content, and you click on that. And if not, you should now have an email with a link to the content. But certainly send us an email if things are funny and you're not accessing that.
Dale Bryant wants to know, he said he just subscribed to the channel yesterday. Thank you, Dale. Is there a live, or is there an email alert to the live shows? That's a really good idea, Dale.
No.
There isn't, but there will be.
Yep. So you've subscribed to the newsletter? The newsletter. If you subscribe to the newsletter, I'll try to remember to do that next week. We'll see how many people unsubscribe then. It's always interesting to watch the levels of subscriptions each day and unsubscriptions. What did I say in that last email that made 3 people unsubscribe? Auntie Evan wants to know, are macro tubes a good starting point in macro photography without jumping into a macro lens? Yes. Have you watched my 30-minute video on macro photography? Because that's the end result of that is there are a lot of options, and macro tubes are a great way to get into it. I do like to pay a little bit more for the smart ones. The Velo brand extension from B&H. You post a message on Facebook, we can send you the link you can use so that you support us. And they're great. It does help to start with a good quality lens first, like a nice prime lens, or something a little bit better than the kit, but they'll work with the kit as well. The STM, if it's a kit with an STM lens, I don't love having to manually focus with the STM lens. Yeah. They're fly-by-wire, you all know that. You know, it tells the camera that the thing is being turned, and then the camera tells the lens to move, and you don't have this really nice kind of mechanical feedback. This old $5 lens I got doesn't look great, but ooh, it's so nice. It's so nice. So, you know what isn't nice is the 40mm macro from Nikon. That does not rotate smoothly for me. So, have we touched on everything? I know there's some questions we're missing. Giuseppe, you said you were somewhere. I don't think I saw that before we started broadcasting, and we have now been running for we've been running for long enough. I think it's time to say goodnight. 2 or 3 reminders. 1, Patreon subscribers. You get lots of perks. Those of you in the chat room who are already supporters, thank you. Really appreciate it. It is allowing us to grow this channel and start planning for some really exciting things in the future. If you're not, think about it. $3 a month level gets you access to these videos that are coming out and are $2.49 right now, and there'll be more than one a month. So right there, it's going to pay for itself right away. And then at the higher levels, really, I prioritize getting thoughtful and complete answers to your questions. Think about the value of that. Another thing I want to remind you to do is hit the thumbs up button so people know this is worthwhile to watch. People look at it and say, an hour and 30 minutes, but then they say, hour and 30 minutes with 500 thumbs up. Woo! So hit that thumbs up button, please. And if you have anything really pertinent to say to this conversation, and I've seen a lot of great things go by, remember to take a moment and leave that as a comment afterwards, because the chats do sadly disappear.
Yep. Don't forget about the poll for the question of this week. We'll be talking about the results next week. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. And feel free to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram and Twitter. Our links are actually not right down below right now. Oh. I should have put them down there. Totally told them they were down below before. Well, they will be in 2 minutes. Thank you guys very, very much for spending your Friday evening or Saturday morning with us, or whenever you're watching this later this week. Thank you. Goodbye. One of us has to hit that button. All right. You should put that. It's your job to hit that button. And stop. We could just yank the